Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. And I know we've had a lot of tier 10 gameplay on the channel recently, a lot of premium tanks spamming a lot of gold in a lot of situations. And so today this should be one for all of you out there who is looking for that tech tree experience that seems to be so uncommon these days inside World of Tanks, as we have VirtualPain. It's a great name. I definitely like that one. I think World of Tanks has given all of us a lot of virtual pain over the years of playing in their Gowika. So this is the tier 7 Polish tank destroyer. And we're going to see VirtualPain going into a position that I would never really have thought to use in the Gowika. But then again, this tank, it's quite specific and not very flexible in the way that you can play it. The tank's got 7 degrees of gun depression, not bad. Really good frontal armor. It kind of feels a bit like a T-28. I'm talking about the tier 8 American tank destroyer down at tier 7. The armor isn't fantastic, however, it's got about like 200 millimeters of effective armor against armor piercing rounds. But 200 millimeters, that's half decent. And as long as you use a little bit of your gun depression, it can get just a little bit better on the front. But really the highlight of this vehicle has to be this gun. It gets a 122 millimeter gun that has 420 alpha damage. So it is like a T-28 plus, but down a tier, that is a hard-hitting tank. A lot of vehicles like the SU-152, when they're using the 122 millimeter, have 390. You've got a bunch of other tank destroyers at tier 7, like a Jagdpanther, for example, that's packing 320 if you use the 105 millimeter caliber gun. So that's kind of like the region of what you're expecting at tier 7. But for this thing to be packing 420, it's very decent indeed. Even better than something like the Cheeto SP on the enemy team. Although, yeah, the Cheeto SP is outrageous for other reasons. I guess the main thing that sucks about this tank is that unlike an 87, for example, which is also a heavily armored tier 7 tank destroyer in the British line, that thing gets a whopping amount of hit points at 1,250, whereas the Gowika we can see here, without a durability device, is getting 850, and that's really just not enough to be able to take many hits from your opponents that your armor doesn't stop. And that's really the biggest issue with this vehicle. Its armor is so frustrating, a bit like a T-28 HTC, for example, and that is that when it works, your tank feels great because your armor's thick, but when it doesn't, you just don't have the hit points to back up that impressive armor, so the durability really falls off there. So it's kind of like up and down for the Gowika in a way. I don't think it's a tank that a lot of people really think much about when they're grinding through it, because it's the last of the vehicles that doesn't get that special new Star Tray shells shenanigans that Wargaming has going on, where you have ridiculous alpha in close quarters combat. But as soon as you go past 50 meters, you start to lose all of that advantage that the Polish tank destroyers have. So VirtualPain has had definitely a painful game so far, but now starts to be actually picking it up a little bit as they find 2 shots, but it took them over 3 minutes of the battle before they could even hit 1 shell here. But some steady hand marksmanship here finishes off that LT-432, and now they don't have to worry about getting shot towards the south unless the ISU-152 manages to clutch a shot through the window. And everybody knows the troll gun that's on the ISU-152. That thing definitely it hurts when it hits you, right? That is going to remove all of VirtualPain's hit points here. So VirtualPain's deciding that they can't fight a T-832. There are tank destroyers that are advancing across the south, and I think this is a really blessed play. They're using a part of the map that I don't think I've ever really been in before. This section on Berlin, opposite the enemy team. I usually end up using this avenue quite a lot because I feel like it's the only way to be able to progress safely towards the enemy cap circle. But I think considering that this western part of the map has this corner that you can go through, whereas you can't do that on the other side. You have to kind of like go along the river. But I just don't think this is an area which I've ever really thought about using before. And it doesn't look like the enemy team were expecting VirtualPain and their Gowika to be here either, as they half health the SU-122-44 and turn their attention towards the Jagdpanzer 4 on the enemy team. Great shot there. So VirtualPain is wiggling their armor, trying to make themselves a hard target to hit, and also wedging that armor up to be able to make the armor even more impressive. But oh lord, here comes the big gun, and it actually ricochets off the front of this tank. That's 286 millimeters of penetration that failed to be able to go through the Gowika's armor. And with the great damage per minute on this vehicle, combined with a gun rammer and vents, interestingly, in the firepower slot there, probably because VirtualPain wants to have enough view range to be able to spot for a decent distance, they managed to shut down the ISU-152 and follow it up with a shutdown on the SU-12244. An already fantastic game for this tank, but VirtualPain is only getting started in their Gowika. So interestingly enough, VirtualPain doesn't just sit there and look for the Jagdpanzer IV. They're thinking about moving, they're thinking about trying to make sure they're not getting flanked, and thinking about positions that they can fall back into. And this is really what shows VirtualPain as an exceptional player. They don't get tunnel visioned, they don't try and look for that opportunity that's right in front of them. They're looking for a play that they feel can win the game. And unfortunately, that means they're not going to be able to support the M2Y here. I guess the only other play for VirtualPain was probably to rush towards the Jagdpanzer IV. But in that kind of a situation, the enemies could have come through the center, the artillery could have been able to catch VirtualPain, and it would have probably been a grisly demise. And so unfortunately, while the M2Y does have a grisly demise here, VirtualPain is now in a position where he's got multiple higher tiered tanks on a good amount of hit points right in front of them. We have a TS-54 on 3/4, a Cheeto SP on 3/4, and a T-832 on 3/4 as well. So this is going to be a tough situation. But VirtualPain is going to show you why coated optics on this tank is going to save them here. And also the fact that this tank's stationary camo and its moving camo is not bad at all. And combine that with a fallen tree and a few bushes in front, and VirtualPain has got a chance, but a very slim one at that, of trying to deal with all of these higher tiered tanks. Luckily, the TS-54 seems to be going after the artillery on VirtualPain's team, and oh dear, they got spotted. Well, that's it, right? Well, maybe not, as VirtualPain actually manages to ricochet the Cheeto SP. The artillery finishes off the Cheeto SP there, and VirtualPain angles their armor very well to be able to deal with the T-832, showing just masterful fighting close quarters here. That low roll could prove very painful though now, because they're going to need an average roll to be able to finish off the T-832. Luckily, the artillery on the T-832's team kind of screws them over there as they stun their own T-832, whereas VirtualPain use their medkit quickly, probably allowing them to avoid taking any damage there from the T-832. Gosh, you gotta love it when enemy artillery are helping you out, right? And so now, with the TS-54 having dealt with the GW Panther on VirtualPain's team, they've managed to change this kind of 1 versus 5 situation, or 1 versus 6 situation with an artillery support, into now an opportunity. However, VirtualPain is going to have the painful experience of running out of gold here against a TS-54. Luckily, the standard rounds on this tank still have 202mm of pen, another reason to love this vehicle, but they're not going to have that 245 gold pen that they were previously using throughout this battle. So it's now down to the free-to-play experience, only standard rounds against a higher tier premium tank in a tech tree vehicle. VirtualPain is just hoping that this TS-54 is going to push them, but also kind of worried that the artillery shells are bludgeoning their way in. Maybe in this situation, an HE shell, maybe the cupola of the TS-54 wouldn't pen, but at least it would have a good chance of being able to go in. But oh wow, not if the TS-54 makes a huge misplay here and doesn't seem to have been able to figure out where the Gowika exactly is. So this is just a ginormous game of World of Tanks. Nearly 5,000 damage in a tier 7 tank destroyer in a tier 8 game. This is a crazy carry so far. However, VirtualPain is still going to have to deal with this TS-54 having to shoot them at least 2 times if they high roll, most likely 3 times to be able to finish them off. And it looks like the TS-54 is poking forwards, misses a shell. VirtualPain puts in a shell but doesn't high roll, so that means it's very, very, very unlikely now they're going to be able to roll high enough with their next shell to be able to finish off the TS-54 in a single shot. But the TS-54, like a bull to a red flag right now, is advancing forwards and actually manages to blind fire the Gowika, now meaning that VirtualPain is in an awkward position where if an artillery splashes them, they're going to be in a bad way. But luckily, the TS-54 doesn't seem to be able to spot them yet, and VirtualPain finishes them off just as they manage to get into the bush. And I don't even think they got spotted there. Outrageous, unless I'm stupid and the Sixth Sense went off, as Wiley on the enemy team didn't manage to avoid that shell. And oh my lord, VirtualPain up to 5,800 damage now. However, with 5 minutes left on the game and 2 self-propelled guns still to be able to deal with, VirtualPain has still got their work cut out for them. Those artillery could be anywhere, and with 336 hit points, That might not be enough to take a shot if it hits one of the weakly armored parts of the Gowika, but luckily, looks like the Crusader SP is expecting that they're going to have to take the cap, and oh, clutch shot there. Clean as a whistle, right through the side of the Crusader SP, and the Tier 7 British self-propelled gun has been taken out of the game, and now over 6,000 damage in a Tier 7 vehicle, and a Radley Walters to their name. VirtualPain is definitely not making this look like a painful experience, although the ultimate pain, aka the heartbreak, might still be yet to come. We all know about the M44 and its ability to be able to hit clutch shells, whether that's the premium rounds on that vehicle, although artillery, they'd get special rounds now because they cost the same price. You know, you can't really call them gold rounds or premium rounds anymore. One shell wayward into the Gowika could prove awful. Another reason to love this vehicle is 50 kilometers an hour. Can you believe this is a heavily armored tank bombing it around with a big gun, and also having the speed to be able to make their way over towards the enemy cap circle? Okay, the magical 5 seconds has elapsed, and so that means now that even if Psycho Dad, spelled incorrectly on the enemy team, maybe that's why they're a Psycho Dad, manages to get into the cap circle, it will still not be enough. And so now VirtualPain prepared, waiting for the M44. Will this turn into one of those games where the M44 plays battleships with VirtualPain, or will this be one of the games where, oh, there he is, Psycho Dad was making their way towards the cap circle, and I guess what they're hoping right now is that VirtualPain is going to be a greedy boy and that they are going to go back towards the cap circle. But this is what I also love about this replay. VirtualPain is not going to take the risk of leaving, and that would be the ultimate bait right now by the artillery. Because if VirtualPain left the cap circle right now to be able to go after the artillery, and the artillery, for example, decided, haha, I've made you leave, I'm going to go and run away now, then that would be a very awkward scenario. Luckily for VirtualPain, they are not being fooled. They're going to stay in the cap circle. And luckily with the is this the Reichstag next to me? Or next to VirtualPain here? I think that should provide them with ample cover from wayward American artillery shells. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this was a gigantic game of World of Tanks with VirtualPain just crushing an awesome carry here. A gigantic game of World of Tanks for the Gowika, a tier 7 Polish tank destroyer standing proud against multiple higher tier tanks. This was pure, unadulterated game mechanics, big balls, and skill by VirtualPain here to take down this game in an absolute fabulous carry. So VirtualPain's description was, what a beast of a tank, so much potential in this little tank XDGG. I totally agree. This Polish tank destroyer doesn't get much attention, probably because of the lack of the hit points and because the Cheeto SP is in the battle, or should I say in the game. But VirtualPain definitely stamping their seal of approval and maximizing the potential of the Gowika. So this was a Kolobanov's medal for standing alone against 5 opponents, a Radley Walters medal for destroying over half of the enemy team in a mid-tier tank, an Invader medal for capping out, a high caliber for 6,600 damage dealt, and VirtualPain even managed to make a profit even after resupplying all of those gold rounds and premium consumables at full price, showing remarkable marksmanship of hitting every single shell and only failing to penetrate 3 of them. So, VirtualPain, congratulations to you on this absolute epic round of World of Tanks. You played it perfectly, and I think a lot of us can learn from the way that you fell back to use that bush location to defend against multiple full health tanks. And thank you so much for uploading it onto the What Replays website. I absolutely loved this game, which is why I wanted to feature it today. And I hope all of you out there enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Monday, I am going live for my dose of VirtualPain right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby, giving out brand new drop tokens so you can be able to get closer to getting your epic style for the T30 or a variety of other goodies. So looking forward to seeing you all on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby right now. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.